In this video we're going to learn about viewpoints and what they can do to help you maintain and manage a large tree. Let's start by loading up one of the samples. This is not actually a very large tree, but it will be easier to understand. First, remember this general layout, because that will be important as we split them up and put them into different views onto the main tree. As we've shown in previous videos, the images that come with the samples are available on the internet, but you won't have a local copy unless you download them. So go to localize images, which just goes and fetches them and puts them in your working directory. And what we want to do is to create some viewpoints. On the tools menu there's a viewpoint manager. That's going to present a list of all of the captions that you have at the moment, and they will become color coded as the person box and their family relationships become allocated to a viewpoint. So at the moment nothing is allocated. What we're going to do is create a couple of viewpoints. We have to give it a key and a meaningful description. It's just going to be Proctor View. The two main surnames in this tree are Proctor and Stanton. So plus will create the first viewpoint. And Stanton View. We're actually going to create three, but we'll just do two for now because we're going to use a second method, alternative method, to create the third one. So let's come out of the viewpoint manager. No, I didn't really want to do that. Let's stay in the viewpoint manager. If I click on Henry Proctor, click on his spouse, so we can see William Henry Proctor is their child. Right click on the spouse there. I want to copy the person, the spouse and the children, which would imply the family relationship as well. Now I can dismiss that. I want to go to the Proctor viewpoint. So on the file menu I can switch viewpoints, and we're going to reduce the size of this just to make it a bit more manageable. I want to point out here that the grid size is the only setting that is specific to individual viewpoints. All the other settings are global. That just makes it a manageable size. Now I'm including the family. It looks like a copy and paste operation, but there's a subtle difference, because copy and paste carry all the details, all the notes, all the image details, the captions. So that's what you would do between entirely separate trees. What this is doing is just taking the existing details of your main tree and just representing it in a viewpoint. So here we've represented the three people and that family relationship. Let's go back to the viewpoint manager, and we're going to do this with let's just point out the Henry Proctor and Elizabeth Turton are now represented, and their family relationship. They're represented in a viewpoint. Their child is coloured blue differently, because although he's represented, his family relationship and his wife are not represented. So the idea is to get all of these red, and to help you can exclude all the ones colour coded red, just so you know how many you've got left to do. For now we'll put that back, and we're going to concentrate on the Stanton family, and William Stanton, and do the same, copy the person, spouse and children. And now I want to go to the Stanton viewpoint, which is empty. Let's reduce the size of that again. And include the family. So now we've chopped the tree into two parts. If we just go back to the full tree and remind ourselves what it looks like. Okay, we've got these two groups of three, and what we're missing now is the marriage between William Henry and Annie Elizabeth at the bottom. And if we go into the viewpoint manager, everybody is now colour coded red except those bottom two. Although their boxes are represented, their marriage is not represented. So I'm going to copy those. In fact, no, what we're going to do is show the alternative method. So I'm going to create another viewpoint. This is now Proctor Stanton, and a meaningful name plus to create it. So I'm not going to copy anything from the viewpoint manager. What I'm going to do is to go to that blank viewpoint and change the settings. What I can do now is to actually duplicate the full tree and work backwards from that. What that means is, rather than build it up piecemeal from the bottom, I can take everything and then just exclude the bits I don't want. This might be a better way if you expect your viewpoint to be large. So I'm going to exclude those families, which then releases these people. I'm now multiple selecting them, I can remove those. And now I've got 3 viewpoints. If I go back to any of the others, Proctor view, Stanton view, and Proctor and Stanton children. And again, to remind ourselves what the full tree looks like. If we go into the viewpoint manager again, you can see now that they're all color coded red, and they would all be excluded if we tick that option. But we don't need the viewpoint manager anymore. What we can do is to generate code for this. Now, normally when we generate the HTML code, it generates a single output file with your full tree in. Now when we hit the process button, we can see it's generated 3 files, one for each viewpoint. And when we view it, it picks the one that is your current viewpoint, which in this case must have been Proctor. And we'll see that William Henry Proctor has got a little arrow in the bottom. What that means is he's represented in another tree. And if we click on that, then you'll see that it's opened a second tab now because we've gone to the Proctor Stanton view. It hasn't closed the Proctor view, that's in this tab, but it's opened another one for the second view, and we see that both of these people have got arrows. If we click on this one, it will take us back to the first view, the one we started with. So notice it hasn't opened a second tab, an extra tab. It's now keeping those tabs fixed. And if we select the arrow for his spouse, Annie Elizabeth, then we've got our third viewpoint, and it's highlighted Annie Elizabeth, who is the common person between this viewpoint where we just clicked and the one we've just gone to. And we've got 3 tabs there, one for each viewpoint, and no matter what we do now, it shouldn't open anymore. We go back to the previous one, we go back to the original one, it's still manipulating those 3 tabs. So it's effectively a tabbed tree. People who are more familiar with the transition within a single tab, going from one page to another, might find this a little odd. But think of it as tabbed data. It's simply taking your tree, splitting it across viewpoints, and putting each one in a separate tab, but they're joined together. Now we're going to close all of those down, because there are more things we can do with viewpoints. Something to note: when you hit the design button, which would normally go straight into the tree designer, it now knows that you've got multiple viewpoints, and so it asks you which one you would like to do. If in fact you wanted to generate a single output file, as it would have done without viewpoints, then you don't have to change much. You can just go to the settings and untick this option, viewpoints, and that temporarily disables viewpoints. So then if you've unticked it and you go back in, the process button will then generate a single output file as it did before, and View would view all of the entries for that tree. There's one more thing I want to talk about here. Let's abandon this temporary one and go to a sample. Yes, I don't want to save it. Go to a sample that's distributed with the kit. This is basically the same as the one we've created dynamically. but it illustrates that we can add links in there. So those little arrows in the corner, what they indicate is that the same person is in multiple viewpoints, and you can follow that arrow to find them in a different viewpoint. But what you might want to do is to add your own ones. So let's demonstrate this by going into a particular person and going to the program data. And this may not make much sense to you, but edit application data and edit the hyperlinks from one tree to another. And that's made it tabulated so we can see what we're looking at. This is added more with a different role. Normally the role for the links that are generated by the process button, they're self. If you look at the output file, it just says self because it's going to the same person in a different viewpoint. What this has done is add a couple of extra links. So if I wanted to, I can go to that person's father or that person's mother. And these are fairly explanatory. So that's the viewpoint key and the descriptive name and the file name. And they're explicit because this is an open-ended mechanism. You don't have to use it with viewpoints. You can link different trees together. But when you generate viewpoints, it actually uses this linked tree mechanism. Let's just see this in action. So we've got viewpoints enabled. We're going to process this and it will generate 3 output files. This time when we view it, when we click on William Henry Proctor, we don't just get the self entry, which is the automatically generated one for viewpoints, but we also get a link for a father and a mother. And that's actually in the same viewpoint, the mother, and similarly if I click on father, so it's not going to a different tab. If I select the self one, then it's gone to a different tab. And there I could select Annie Elizabeth's mother, which is in a different tab, but it's not herself. So if I'd have gone back, done that again and selected herself, it's just gone to the same person, same details in a different viewpoint. This enables you to link not only viewpoints according to different person roles, but entirely different trees. So you're not forced to use the viewpoint mechanism. And I think we've probably covered everything there. So we're going to leave this now and wind up the video.